Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can
Yes.
hear you, Maura.
Cool.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome,
Hello.
Maura, Janet. Hey, let me see.
Is that Janet Smith?
Yes, it is. Hi,
Hi,
Jane.
Janet.
Hey,
How are
Janet.
you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you.
Very good.
Janet might have some good things to add here too today.
Yeah, definitely. All
I
right,
like to
welcome,
learn from
everyone.
other people. I know I always learn a lot from other tutors.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
that's why we do those things, those events.
Mhm.
It can be a little bit of a lonely experience to be an online tutor. You're doing things on your own, and feel like we're always curious to see what other tutors are doing on their side, and we can learn from each other.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So welcome everyone. We're so happy to organize this event with Jane, who kindly accepted to show us her trade secrets and how she does it. So I'm Xavier. I'm the co-founder of Koala, and Jane is a master certified Barton tutor. So the creme de la creme, as we say, of Barton tutors, and she's been with using Koala for how many years now, Jane?
Three at least.
Three,
Gosh, I
yeah,
don't know.
something like
Since
that.
I guess since COVID, probably.
Yeah, since the 3D era.
Yeah. Yeah, since we were back at 3D.
Yeah.
Well, 3D when it was an app. All right.
So yeah, really happy to have Jane. And Jane, so today Jane will show us how she teaches Barton online using Koala. Of course, you don't have to use every tool that Jane is going to show, but this is tool that you can use. It's a relatively simple way to teach. If you have any questions, shoot them in the chat. And Jane, I will interrupt you as you mentioned earlier, so that you
Absolutely.
can take those questions right away. All right, all yours,
All
Jane.
right. All right. So I'm just going to take you through how I do a lesson in Barton. And I'm assuming most people here at Barton, of course, you have to have the curriculum to use Barton. And you can make this, Xavier said, oh, with no planning. And I don't think there's such a thing as no planning, but I'll show you as simplified as I can and then options to go from there. If you were to join my class right now, the very first thing I do, aside from saying, hi, how are you to my student, is we head straight to playground. And I'm assuming you can all see my screen. And
So if you can't
this is,
see Jane's screen, you see there's a tab in the top that says Jane's screen. Let us know if you have issues getting there.
and I always put myself in first view. And this is the way I start every single lesson is a sight word hunt. And so the word I'm looking for, my student will be looking for is walk. And I've made this fairly simple just for the sake of myself being able to find it, but students are pretty quick at finding these letters, and they have to find them in order. So they'll say W, and I even wrote a note to myself of where they are. Because there's been times when we've been tricky and I'm like, where did I hide these letters? A. And this is a great way to get that sight word practice in every single time. It's also a way to get your student moving in the playground right away. L. And I know I saw the K. There it is. And then the treasure chests were open, and there's a couple different things you can have here. I've had kids that will collect things like dinosaurs, and I had one student who was able to name every dinosaur. One girl wanted to collect the flowers for the months of the year. And right now, what everybody seems to want to do is collect points, and then they add their points up, and when they get to 50 points, they get a game. So it's a way to incentivize. It's a way to start with those sight words straight out the gate. It's a way to get in the playground straight away. And we kind of have some conversation as they're looking for their sight word letters. Usually only do one sight word at a time. And again, there was 4 points because there was 4 letters. And we're going to assume we're going to start a Barton lesson. So of course, we're going to head straight up to Wizimo. If you don't use
Jane,
Wizimo, you can. Yes, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. There's a question from
Yep.
Cher who says,
Yeah.
so I'm not sure how to place those letters in the playground. I'm at very basic level.
Okay. So I just created, I'll go back there. I just created sticky notes, and this might be something you want to watch in one of the basic koala,
What?
one of the basic koala. I just create sticky notes with their letters. And then I create story tools, and then you create action zones where you place the action zone, you place it. So that would be probably something you'd have to learn if you don't. I don't have time really to go through the steps of creating action zones here for our purposes, but I just create action zones using sticky notes, and that might be something you'd want to look at with one of the basic seminars. I'm sure is there a video for that, Xavier? How do you create action zones?
Yeah, yeah, that's a little bit of an advanced use case, but we provide those trainings. I can share a video.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna, after we've done the sight word, I'm ahead up to here. If you don't have Wizamo, you can always create sticky notes here. You lock them and you duplicate them, but I use Wizamo. And I'm just using, I just want to point out really quick, in this shared browser, you can create tabs. So all my students will use Wizamo, word wall. I have my YouTube video and my spelling success. And then I have one student right here who does read live. So I tab her. And just to do tabs really quickly is, I had a student show me this. You right click, you can create a new tab, and then you can color it and name it. That's the girl's initials. And then you can include whatever tabs you want into it. That just creates things, keeps things compact. So Wizamo. And then I'm gonna do my new teaching in Wizamo, just like you would through Barton. And of course, if you have Barton Wizamo, you have access to the levels you've purchased. And a little slow. And let's just assume we're teaching here. I'm in book 1. I do the review. I do my phonemic awareness warm-up. I do my new teaching. I do my second new teaching. I do the things I have to do in Wizamo here, the new teaching primarily. And then this is where you have options. You can build words here for the next step. So we have the new teaching, the second new teaching, and then we have them build words with tiles. You can have them build words with tiles here, or you can go back to your whiteboard and have them build words here, or you can go back to playground and have them build words there. Now, again, if you're going to do it in playground, it is more work up front because you have to create these stickies. And this focus tool right here is your friend. And this is where it does take work if you're going to do it here rather than Wizamo. But you create these, you lock them, make them duplicable, ownable, and then they can build words here. I personally just use Wizamo for the build words with tiles just to keep it simple, but this is an option. So again, I also want to point out, if you look at what I've titled this BL Barton Level 1 template, when I'm building these lessons, I will create a base template and I'll put all my rules. I'll put all of my rules for everything I have, but I only build words and things I need for this lesson for like 2 lessons at a time. And I'll show you more of that in a minute. And then I save that as Barton Level 4.1 and 4.2. And then I go build on that the next lesson. And I'll get more into that as we go. So after the new teachings, you have the option to stay in Wizamo, or you can go to their whiteboard, or you can go to playground. So those are your options. So after build words with tiles, our next steps are read words on page. Again, you can do that in Wizamo if you want to. You can read those words on Wizamo. You could be on the whiteboard. And what I would do is you can drag a screenshot just directly onto your whiteboard. Let me see if I've got my screenshot for the words. This happens to be the words from lesson 2, but you just drag and drop. It's a screenshot on my computer, and you can just drag them right here and use them here. Apologize, thought my phone was silenced. Okay, and you can make this as big as you want, and kids can use the pen. They can do it here, or again, you can go to playground. This is what I do because the more time I spend in the playground, the kids just like it better. So I go over here and I have it marked. Again, you can do this, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. I prefer to create stickies. So this is where you do have some work if you want to type in the stickies. And I have those words right there. And I've put them in there, and the kids can use the pen tool. Or if I don't want to, I can just do this, make it big, lock it in place, and they can read words there. Xavier asked me to show you, it's with whiteboard, you just drag it from your desktop onto the whiteboard. When you're in the playground, you do have to open this image library, and then you can drag it to here. And the way I organize it is I will just go level 4, and then you'll see all of my stuff from level 4. I've got my spelling success cards that I use because I own that game that I've scanned in here. And a lot of times I will try and delete stuff. So you'll see I've got some of my PDF pages that I screenshotted. And then you just take whatever it is, like the level 1 words, you click on it, put it in here, and there it is.
And
So it's
Jane,
a little bit more involved with the playground versus the whiteboard. Yes, go ahead.
and do you feel like doing this in whiteboard versus playground in playground versus whiteboard has some advantages in terms of your
Yes.
kids' engagements? Yeah, they're more excited, even though they're looking at the exact same page.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's something about being a playground. I always use a story. I inherited a student who was in level 4, and she was about halfway through, and we actually had to start over with level 4. And I was told by her tutor and her parents, she needs a break, a movement break every 10 minutes.
Mhm.
And I kept asking her, it was my first session with her, do you need a break? No. Do you need a break? No. She never needs breaks. She never needs movement breaks. And I've been working
In
with her 3
playground.
years now in playground, and we actually started in Koala 3D. But
Yeah.
her parents right away said she doesn't need breaks. With her tutor in person, she had to get up every 10 minutes, and she never needs a break. So there's something psychological about moving around in the playground. They feel like they're moving and they're engaged. So yeah, absolutely. That's why I try and get in playground as much as possible. I even tell them the wisdom of part, this is the hardest part because I do more talking and you have to pay attention to this. Feels like kind of like school or like COVID, but the more I can get them in here, the better. And so that's why I go ahead and do even the sticky notes rather than the white pages for this part. Any other questions about the steps? I know I'm going fast. I don't want to bore people, but want to keep us moving. So then we have write words. So if you have a student who types, you can have them just type on sticky notes if you want. Now I put my sight words again, sorry, I'll cover this. Here's the sight words for the level. And if not, again, you can just PDF, you can put it in here if you prefer the PDF. If you don't want to do the sticky notes, you can just stick that PDF right in there. So what I do when I create a template and I start with level 4, I put all of the rules somewhere. So hidden under this, are all level 4 rules. And then I just uncover them as I go. And I also should say, if we hadn't just been starting this level after the sight words, we would come over and review. Whoops. I would come over and review and say, what's the flu rule? What's the crybaby? So we do that review after sight words. I missed that. That's because I was assuming we were starting level 4. So right here, I say type words here for students who can type. You can do that right here. If you have a student who can't type and you need them to write, I will go to the whiteboard, and this is just a screen image of it. I will go to the whiteboard, and this student has a laptop. And so this is assuming we're back on the whiteboard. And she just takes her laptop and turns it to the side, and she just pushes her screen down so I can see her writing. And I can unlock that and make it bigger so you can see. And she has the rules right there. This is on the whiteboard because she doesn't type yet. She is learning to type. So when she can type, she's really excited to learn to type because she wants to be able to do words in the playground. But right now, you can see her spell checker. You can see that she's writing. I can see it really easily as she's going. She's got her rules right here she can refer to on the whiteboard. Any questions? Am I going too fast?
Yeah. No, there's a question. So do you do one-on-one or group? One-on-one.
I can't imagine doing group. Maybe that's just a personal thing. I'm sure there's talented tutors who can do more than one, but you can only go as fast as your slowest student with that. And I can't imagine. I'm sure there's people that enjoy that. That's not my thing. So again, yeah.
And there's a second question from Mary. who says, I like this playground. Do you sell a template that I can get on the marketplace?
So I created this playground, a kind of a simplified version of this. I called it a hazard-free playground, where you can't fall into the water. The only thing I added was these stairs up here, and I did decide after this I can make this playground for you. I just can't put. I will include all the blank stickies. I just can't include any Barton material, but I will happily sell this template, and I'll say put words here, put phrases up here, and I'll leave the frames. I'll leave all the stuff and sell it for $2 or $3. No problem. I can definitely do that for you. But I can't, again, as you know, I can't put any of the Barton material. I can't even put the rules in, but I can sell this for sure. If you'd like that, if people would like me to do that, no problem. All right.
Mary says that would be great.
Perfect. So we are in our Barton lesson. We have read words. We've typed words. Sight word practice. I will sometimes go back to the place we went over here. It just depends on the student. Sometimes we'll come back here, but most of the time, if we're learning a new sight word, I will go back to my whiteboard. Sorry. I'll go back to my whiteboard and I use C to spell. Oh, sorry, I did want to include this. I also will do this when I first have a student join. We'll review rules, like that's level 3 rules. I'll have them all in there. And then here's level 4 rules. Again, when I make my first lesson, 4.1, 4.2, I put everything here and I just cover up the stuff we're not using. And then when I want to make the next level, I just save that is, duplicate it, and then I'll make the next 2, like 4.3 and 4.4, and then I'll change the material in the playground. I'll uncover the rules. So for sight words, I prefer to come over here. I'll use some C to spell words. If you've got those, you can actually record the story that goes with each one on here. And I don't have them play automatically because I don't like hearing my voice on them. So I have the C to spell, and then we've got these, and sometimes I do word matrices. So when we're first learning those sight words for spelling, I come to the whiteboard. I prefer the whiteboard for this. Okay. So after, now I'm already losing my Barton lesson because I'm going so fast. We don't go this fast through a Barton lesson. Of course, you have this, read words, spell words, spelling with tiles, sight words, reading phrases. Okay, so again, you can go back to Wizimo, or you can go here on the whiteboard and you can do a screenshot and put it on here with your phrases or your whatever you're doing, or you can go to Playground, which again, I like to be in Playground as much as possible. So we're going to read phrases. So we're going to head upstairs, and my student likes to go, there's a staircase entrance over here. She likes to go that way. I get a little nauseated if I go that way. So I go this way, and she likes to beat me. And I'll probably embarrass myself with how, again, this is that hazard free. I created these walls so you can't go flying off. And here we have, I just create these. Again, this is a little more work, but once I've done this, when I create my new template for 4.3, I just change these. Or again, if you prefer not to use the sticky notes to make it even more simple, you just create a screenshot from your curriculum, from the student pages you have, because if maybe people don't know this, if you own a Barton level, you can request the PDF from Susan Barton. She will send you all the student pages of the PDF. You open the PDF and just take a screenshot. With a Mac, it's Command Shift 4. So everybody who owns the curriculum can get a copy of the PDF from Susan in Office. Obviously, I'd have to get this in front of these stickies and I wouldn't have them. And you can make this as big or small as you want. So you can use this and you can just have it right there. Or I prefer to do it this way. And I even just recently, I have a student who's at the end of this level, and I actually do I make all the beginnings lowercase and I take off all the periods and I say, find the errors. And so then I can add in that extra layer of they catch, oh, you forgot to capitalize this, Miss Jane. Oh, you put a question mark and it's supposed to be a period. So I like to add that in. I know that Susan, she says the who, what, the did what. I prefer to use noun, verb, prepositions, add-ons. I prefer to use the actual language because I think they're perfectly capable of learning a noun, a verb, a preposition. But I know on Barton it says the who, the did what, the when, the where, the why. That's just a personal preference for myself. And then they use the pen when they're picking, and they can use the pen. I always tell them to make it really thin, make it a color that stands out. And they can always do their dot divide. You know, they can mark syllables. And then when they pick sentences like the shy fox will try to be in his stall by 2. And they mark them. Any questions about phrases, reading phrases portion of the lesson? Or does anybody have any other ideas? Comments?
Yep.
Yeah, because
the comment by Janet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been finding that I can't go in and out of the playground without experiencing a lot of freezing, lagging when I go back in. I'm wondering if the problem would be solved to use a simpler playground like this if I want to do that.
So
yeah, we can. Yeah, I'll let you, Jane, go ahead.
I do know. So I have some of the heavier playgrounds. There are some amazing playground creators. We know who they are. They're amazing, but they are very heavy. They're very heavy. You notice when it's loading the playground, it'll say the images it's loading, and this one even has like 200 or something. So you see those really heavy playgrounds. I have the same thing, and I also will notice that the more action zones there are, the more likely those action zones are to break. And so I have found, even if I will get one of those enormous playgrounds, I will actually delete a lot of it. Because some of them, they're amazing. But my personal preference is I want to keep it simple, and I will use this same template for all of level 4. And then I have a different one. I use the farm one that Koala creates, and then I add my own little tweaks to it, and I will use that all for a different level, so that it's consistent. The phrases are always upstairs, the sentences are always upstairs, the stories are always downstairs. So there's predictability with it, but they know then when we get to level 5, it's going to be something different. It's not going to be this room. But then I have a whole series on the silent E, which I did in something similar to this. So it's kind of back to this room. So they do get variety in the playgrounds, but for every level, we're in the same playground. I just build off of it. I just duplicate that playground, change. So when I duplicate this will change to, because I do 2 per lesson, 2 per playground. 4.1 and 4.2 are here. And then I will change this to 4.3, and I just change these really quick. And, you know, so there is some work, but once I've done it once, I don't have to ever do it again.
Right.
I've got that template. And then I actually will duplicate the template and then put their initials on it. And sometimes I'll find when I'm working with a student, there's some things I want to tweak. And then I'll say, when I'm that student's, like, let's say a student finishes this and there were some things I found I wanted to tweak, I will, you know how when you save things, you can put categories on them. So I have her initials on them, and I will say, I will keep it as finished student. I'll put, there's a category, finished student rooms. And that means I've indicated to myself, I want to go back to this room because there's something I liked that I changed. So if I tweak something in this room and I want to use this room that I did with this student instead of my original template for this room, and I don't have time, but she just finished it, I'll mark it. I'll just quickly add it to the group, finish student room. And I know to myself, I'm going to go back and use that and create that as the new template because I liked something we changed, just something I discovered that worked with the student better. And then I will replace the template with that. If that does that make sense?
Yes, I definitely have started, like I love those incredibly creative playgrounds, but I found in my computer I can only go once. And if I try to go back and then go back again, it's like tempting fate. I lag like crazy. So I think if I want to do more back and forth, I have to have an option that's not so intense.
Yeah. I've never had a problem with this this level 4. I've never had a problem.
Okay.
I've had some issues with some of the ones that I bought that are heavier, and that's why I've deleted a lot of things in them. Also for my own sake.
That's a good idea too, actually.
I get nauseated. Because there's some I actually get nauseated. I'm sure the kids wouldn't, but I do. I'm like, oh.
And Janet, Janet, you're aware that in playground there's different levels of quality of
yes, I'm on like the lowest.
You're on the lowest, okay.
The lowest.
And you have an old computer or
yeah, it's getting. I'm saving for a new one. It's a Surface. Microsoft.
What year?
Oh, it's a good one, but it's probably about 6-7 years old. So
okay.
I know that's part of the issue.
Yeah, your CPU. The better your CPU, the more you'll be able to handle very huge playgrounds. That's very HD. But
And the
Yeah,
Jane,
you want to say
processor
something?
is probably older. So yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah,
was
it's
factors.
a good idea for a Christmas present for
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is what Xavier was talking about, if people didn't see it. So if you want to change in the playground settings, if you want to make it less, you can scroll down here, and the quality of the playground he was talking about, you can,
Yeah.
if you have a slower computer, you can change the quality of the playground. I think it defaults to medium. You can also do the same with your camera. You can change the quality of your camera. So I think it defaults to medium, is that correct? Xavier, is that the default?
I don't think it defaults to medium. I think it's a little bit technical, but we identify the tier of the
Oh,
CPU
it
and
just does it.
GPU of your computer, and based on that, we preset a playground quality that we think is suited for your computer. But sometimes we're wrong.
Okay, so just for people to know kind of what Janet was talking about, if you're having lagging, you might want to try a lower. You might be, oh, I'm on ultra. Well, maybe if I go down to medium, it might load faster. So that's just one of those things that we don't necessarily know about. Any other questions to this, or otherwise I'll move on?
There's a few actually.
Sure.
Can you manipulate those sticky note phrases for sentence creation, Jane?
Oh, yes. So I don't lock them. So the students could do this if they wanted to. The shy fox doesn't come by the dry bank, but could still stroll. And the greatest thing about this is I used to lock everything, but because we have this wonderful little undo thing, in case a student accidentally deletes things, I can just hit the undo. Before the undo, I found myself locking everything, because if a student accidentally deleted something, I'd be like, ugh. Also, there is in the student settings, you can make it so the students can't delete things, but I make sure they can't. I say you have to give the student permission. They have permission to use a pen. They have a permission to, and sometimes those reset if your browser's updated. So just always check, because my students say, I don't have the pen. I'm like, oh, okay, it's because I updated my Chrome. So I have to go reset the student. And you only see that when the student's invited. But I keep these unlocked. So yeah, you could totally move these around if you wanted to, and instead of having a mark, if that's how you prefer to do it. I used to do that in Koala 3D. I would just have them stacked up, and they'd read all of them, and they were all just one stack, and then they'd create the sentences by moving the sticky notes. That's just another option. I just happen to do it this way now. And I think in my later rooms, I actually move these stickies closer together, because I found I don't like them so far apart. Any other questions about this part?
So there was a question. Okay, there's a question I tried to answer in the chat, but it looks like we may need you to show, Jane, how to duplicate playground. I'm not sure where my playground are and don't know which playground will open with which students.
Okay. I will get to that. Remind me and I'll get to that.
Sounds good.
We go back
All right,
up
I'll
to
move to the
whiteboard.
next question then. Can you advise where this and other recorded trainings can be viewed if that is possible? Actually, this recording will be available on Jane's YouTube channel. So maybe Jane, do you want, is that okay if I go to your channel, get the link and post it in the chat?
Yep.
Right,
It's just, if you just Google on YouTube, Miss Jane's Tutoring and Dyslexia Services, it should pop up.
Perfect. Miss Jane's Tutoring on Google or YouTube.
YouTube. Yeah. Google or YouTube.
Yeah. Okay. Maura is saying, I was just playing around trying to figure out how to get different playgrounds. I found out you open a new activity on the whiteboard and each activity has a new playground. That is correct.
But you can already have one that's established and you can duplicate it so that you don't have to recreate the wheel. And I can show that in a minute. The reason I don't want to go down is because I will end up back downstairs again, then we'll have to come back up. And the next portion, so this is again where students, they read phrases. Now it's time for students to write phrases. If you have a student that can type, I will just come over here, and believe it or not, these sticky notes are plenty big to write sentences or phrases. So students who type will do this. My particular student I have on level 4 right now, again, she is working on typing, but she's not there yet. So I will go back up to the whiteboard. And again, this is where she'll type her phrases and sight words for that portion. So for right now, if I was with her, I'd go back up to the whiteboard and she would have her rules right there. And I'll just go ahead and do that because it can also answer the other question. So if I'm with that student and she can't type, and again, double clicking on typing, make sure they have access. I have one student who he changes everything to purple. He always goes, oh, I like purple, it's my favorite color. So he always changes every one of my sticky notes to purple. He won't do it on the phrases because he knows it's for a reason. But whenever he's typing phrases or sentences, he changes it to purple, kind of his thing. Okay, and again, this focus tool right here is the key to making playground work, because they can run around, but you lock them in somewhere and then you can go in and out and you can move things around. It's really nifty, because people think, oh, I can't make them focused. Your student doesn't have to be up here. Your student can be downstairs goofing around, and you put the focus on and they're right here with you, whether they like it or not. That's the great thing. Okay, so we're gonna go up here. So let's say I've got my student who, you normally have your cameras right here. And if like my student was right here, you just click on her camera, she shows up. And I actually have it over here. She shows up. And then I make her camera really big right here in the middle. So if we said this is the whiteboard, it's obviously a smaller version of it. I click on her camera, it gets here, I make it nice and big, I can see it. I can even watch her tap on her arm when she taps for syllables, and she can look up at the whiteboard. She'll just tilt up the, if she needs it, but usually by this point, she's got the rules down. So I know, so not every student has a laptop they can manipulate with this, but you can also attach another camera. They can have a document camera. They just switch their camera, which camera they're using, to a document camera. Again, that I'm not going to go into how to explain that. That would be, I'm sure Koala has a video that shows you how to use a document camera. Fred has all kinds of tutorials on those things.
Yeah, we do.
So since we're here, somebody asked the question, how do you duplicate a playground? So up here, and you're gonna be overwhelmed because I've got so many things in here. So my activities, and here it is. This will show currently open right here. And the way I organize it is, if I want to look at all my Barton level 4, every time I create a template for Barton level 4, I'll mark it with this. So if I just want to see all my level 4, I've marked them. And the way you do that is right here, and you add to a group. And then for students, if I know I'm going to work with this student right now, I'll go to her, and then I just am working with, this is her room right now that she's currently working on. Finished students' rooms. These are the rooms, if they're finished. Sometimes I just keep them all because I might want to refer to something, or maybe I bought like a basketball hoop in one of them, and I forgot it there. I got to go find it and delete it, so it goes back in my inventory. So I think if you just delete the room, it'll go back to your inventory. But I just prefer to keep stuff. At some point, I'm going to go through and delete because it's just too many things. But this is just a category I created: finished student rooms.
Oh.
So if I want to duplicate a room, let me go back to just, make things templates. You just click here, duplicate. And then it will say copy of this. And then, so let's say I finished lessons 4.1 and 4.2, and now I'm ready to start this. I have a document that I explain all this stuff to you guys, and I'm gonna have Xavier make that available. So now I've got the copy of it. I just click on it, and then I can find it and rename it. And I'll rename it. First, I add it to a group because that's easier to find. So I'm gonna say, oh, it's Barton level 4. And I'm gonna say maybe it's a template in progress, because that's kind of how I roll, because then I know I haven't finished it. And I'm gonna rename, and I'm gonna say, now this one is 4.3 through 4.4. And then I'm gonna hit, you can ignore the update, I'm gonna hit save. And then I know I can edit that room, and when I edit it, I won't be changing 4.1 and 4.2. Does that make sense? So I basically create a template from the first 2 lessons, and then I duplicate it, and I build the next 2 lessons and the next 2. At the very end of level 4, I do 3 because all the last 3 lessons are all vowel teams. So I want to keep all the vowel teams together. Any questions about that? Did that answer that question on duplicating?
I think it does. Maura is saying that it's super helpful to see how to organize myself is what I'm having trouble figuring out. I have not started tutoring yet, just collecting knowledge.
Okay, so I have 2 ways I keep track of kids. I've got the kids with their rooms, but then I also, because you can do multiple tabs, like templates, Barton level 4 templates. I purchased, there's, they have, Koala gives you these white ones, but then you can create any ones you want. And I'm not a little inconsistent, like with my Barton level with the space here. Level 10, I didn't do a B. So I was a little inconsistent, but I always have my students, and I always keep them what they're working on. But then I've got, if I want to go back, or I want to look at all my Barton level 7, I can look at all those rooms. So the great thing is you don't have to put something in one category. You can put as many labels on it as you want and be able to find things that way. Because otherwise, it's a lot. If you have all of them, it's a lot of different things to keep track of. And I probably need to go through and delete some stuff. Okay, so let me go back to the activity we were on, which is this one. So we finished with write phrases, and you can see where this is going because it's basically the same thing. You can always do everything in Wismo. You can do things here on the whiteboard. I prefer to be in the playground. So we just finished. We're assuming my student typed, or I was in the whiteboard because I needed to see her write. And then the next step is read sentences. Also, I do want to point out right here, I do use this as a game room. And if you own, like I do have a subscription. When you own Spelling Success games, you have access to the ones you purchased as digital copies. I also I have a really fun little scanner. I just zip the cards through. So all of my Spelling Success games, I just scanned. And then I made sure to save them as JPEGs because JPEGs are a lot lighter than what's the other one? Xavier, I'm losing my thought. What's the other kind of image
PDF.
that's more heavy? Oh, PNG. Sorry, PNG image. Those are heavier, right, Xavier? I found those are heavier.
The PNG with transparent background are a little bit heavier than JPEG. Yes.
Yeah. So anything that doesn't need to be transparent, make it a JPEG. That's a big piece of advice I learned because that will make your room a lot less heavy. So all of these are JPEGs. I scan them, I save them as JPEGs, and then I can create my Spelling Success games. And if you also saw back when I was on the browser, I do have word wall games. And again, I just cover up stuff and then lock it. And then if I put everything in the very first template that I'm going to use for all of level 4, and I can just cover it up. And then I just can, once I've established all the different rooms for level 4, usually groups of 2 lessons, I can just delete stuff I don't need from that room. But I always keep everything there until I'm sure I've got what I want. That way you don't have to keep adding stuff every single time you create a new room. And I'm not going to do all of level 4 in one room. That's too much. You wouldn't be able to fit it all. So let's head upstairs. And I don't know if people know this. I'm sure this is for people who are well versed, but for people who are new, if you do have like a pet, you can always hide them. If they're annoying you, you can hide. I can hide my pet right there because sometimes they get in the way or sometimes they're snoring. Some of those bigger rooms, I don't know if anybody's noticed this, their dragon or their pet will get lost somewhere and can't get out. It's kind of funny. So I created these frames just to make it kind of, and again, I can sell this template. I just can't put this in here, but also I can sell it with these frames and the setup if anybody's interested in that. And then again, get them in there. And especially some of the kids' computers are really small, so you can zoom in and you can just focus on that first sentence, nice and big. And I tell them to get their pen. I tell them to make it a color they can see, to mark those phrases, make it small. Their wild colt had the flu in his stall, but could still stroll. If you wanted to, you could write these sentences out on a sticky note. I'm not going to go to that much trouble. I'll do the words in sticky notes. I don't do the phrases in sticky notes. I'm not going to do the sentences or stories. That's too much work. So for sentences and stories, I just do screenshots because a screenshot, super easy. And then when they're done, I don't even have to erase this because if I've already saved it as a template, but if I know, right now I'm on the last level with this kid and I already know I've made changes that I want. I just erase her stuff and I'm going to save it as a template. So again, when we're done with this, it's time for them to spell sentences. If they're a typer, we come right over here and a sentence fits perfectly fine on here. You can even make this, you can make it locked and duplicate so that, after they write a sentence, you just put it over here and then they can write another sentence so that they don't have to delete. So not spending all this time like writing a sentence and then hitting delete, delete, delete. You can make it a blank sticky and then make it clonable. Maybe that doesn't make sense to people. So if this was empty and I didn't mean to do that. Yay, undo button. So if they wrote their sentences here, I could just leave this blank, right? If I wanted to make this a place for phrases and sentences, and I know that's what this is for, I'm going to lock it, make it clonable. So then they can just write the sentence and put it over here. Write the next sentence, put it over here. Write the next sentence, put it over here. That way they're not spending time delete, 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 delete for the next sentence. And if they can't yet type, you can go back to the whiteboard for spelling sentences. Any questions?
Jane, do you mind opening your activity library real quick? I want to answer
Sure.
a question for Sanchez that requires a visual format. Yeah. So Sanchez, when let's say you download an activity from the marketplace. Let's say I download the first one that says BL3435 templates, the first activity that you see in this list. You can then duplicate it by clicking on those three dots, and then you click on duplicate. Okay. And once you do this, it will duplicate this activity in two identical activities, as you can see, as Jane is doing, copying the template. And there will be a new activity created in your library. By default, the name copy, yeah. And then it will create a new activity in your library, which by default will be copy of XYZ, as you can see in the top right. And now you can go back to this activity library or by clicking on it, for instance, or click here on my activities. And then you can actually type copy in the top right if you lost it. So type copy. And now you can find this one currently open, click on those three dots and rename it. I hope that makes sense. Otherwise, Sanchez, we cover these things at our weekly Tuesday training. So I'll post the link again. I encourage you to join us there. Thank you, Jane.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, let me get back to where we were. Okay, so again, if you're spell sentences, a student can spell sentences here, and you can use their video. Again, you just click on their video, which would be over here, and it would be here, and you can make it as big as you want. All right,
PD.
so.
Why you need
Sorry if I muted. No, I think it was unintentional. I muted many of you during this meeting. I apologize. I know it's very rude.
So then I have my stories, and I got the basic stories here. Of course, there's 4 stories for a little bit. I would use the basic, and these frames, I use these frames, and they kind of, from different angles, they look kind of weird. They'll get little lines, but when you're straight on, they look great. So here's our first story, and we can zoom in. And a lot of times if a student's screen is small, if they have a small laptop or even an iPad, I don't have any iPad users, but if I did, you can make this as big as you need to, and they'll say, scroll down. I'll scroll down for them as they go. So you can really make this nice and big for those students with the small screens. So this is where they read the stories. And again, this is for just lesson 1 and 1. And then we won't go to these other ones till later, because that's lesson 4.2. And then we're done. And so here's the fun thing. Once they finish 2 lessons, I like to make an end zone. And this is when it's kind of like, it was originally designed for creating what's called playground stories. You can configure your story and set an end location. So, and that's another tutorial for that Koala shows you. It's creating playground stories. So I like to create an end spot, and all they do is they put the X right here, and we're assuming we finished both lesson 4.1 and 4.2, and we're gonna walk through here, and we're like, hopefully it works. I think I configured this one. Maybe it didn't. I have a little issue with this one. I'm like, there we go. Woo! Congratulations, you completed lessons 1 and 2. And then
so there's the last stop.
Yep, there's the last stops. They finished lessons 4.1 and 4.2. Congratulations, you finished these lessons. It's a fun little way to end this playground. And that is how I use Barton, and that's how I try and keep us in the playground as much as possible. It's just, again, you could use screenshots for everything. So if I'm ready to create my next template for 4.3 and 4.4, you'll notice over here is 4.2. So I've got 2 lessons per playground, just because I think that's enough. I will just duplicate this, and I'll change this part to, I'll make sure you duplicate it. You don't want to change the original. I would duplicate this, and then I'm gonna change this to 4.4, and then I'm gonna change the words to 4.4 words, or I would I would take the screenshot in there and put it in there. I would suggest if you're doing this way, I wouldn't try and do all of level 4 at once. If I have a student who's on 4.1 and 4.2, as soon as she's on 4.2, I'm going to create 4.3 and 4.4. I wouldn't try and do an entire level at once. That's too much work. And you might find there's things that if you did all that, and then you might be finding things like I just did 4.1, 4.2. I don't like a certain part of it, but I've already created all these other lesson playgrounds this way. And that's a waste of time. So find what works for you as you go. And then when they're getting close to being done with this one, then duplicate it and make your next step. Because maybe there's things you want to change so that you're not then having to go fix every template you created way ahead of time. Any questions?
Jane, what's the difference between a playground and a playground story?
Playground story. So story was something that you can create and send to your students for them to do on their own. And I haven't really utilized it. I did a couple playground stories. It's basically where you have it. It's something you send to a student and they go through a playground with certain steps and they have certain steps to complete. Let me see if I can find one. And then you create that ending zone. You configure story where by the time they finish, they get to put that X in the box and they complete the story. Let me see if I can find one really quick.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an advanced feature. So if you're getting started, don't worry too much about it, but it's for advanced user. You can actually publish your playground as a playground story and send a link to your students, and your student can enter playground in their own time. You don't need to be there anymore.
So this is an example of a playground story I created when I was messing around with this. So welcome to, I'm gonna hide my sweet guy. So welcome to the change rule. So this is step 1 and which one is it? And then this goes like this and then the action happens. Oh, I did it correctly. So I get to go this way. So this would be a student would do this all on their own. And then step 2. So they're obviously using the change rule. Which one is the correct answer? And of course you would want to make sure they knew how to do these things. It would be a review. Playful. Oh, this one. And then I follow the arrows. And you can't, people probably know this, but you can do this and you might, oh, my kid can't read all that. Well, you can record your voice on this. I click on it and I click record, and then I can record the directions. I can read that out loud. You can record on this sticky note. I'm not sure if it'll record because we're in a Zoom meeting, but we'll see. Saving, and then I can check it. Yeah, it says audio connect. I was trying to connect my phone to it, but then they click on this and then it will read that sticky note to them. So you really don't have to be there. The arrows show
You don't
them,
you don't use playground story for your day-to-day classes, Jane?
I don't. I personally don't.
Does someone use playground stories out there? I know there's a few Koala, Barton teachers out there. I'm very curious because it was a very requested feature. And actually, it was a lot of work to implement it, but unfortunately, I think it's not that popular. But
well,
maybe
here's
I'm
how
wrong.
I use it. I use it as a reward at the end of when they finish that playground. They get to go through that end thing. So I have one of my students is in a level like this, and what I did is I made this big silo right here. I put a really cool door at the end.
Yeah.
And so when they finish all of the 2 lessons, again, I use 2 lessons per level. So I think this is level 7 I have in here. When she's done everything level 7, she puts it in there and then she walks into that silo and then it goes, congratulations. So I use that feature.
Nice.
It's the story feature, but
the end zone. Yeah.
I use the end zone as like
fun.
You completed these 2 lessons, congratulations. So that's the extent of what I use it for. But this is a playground. You see there's numbers. Because for me personally, I found it was a lot of work for me to do that I didn't have time for on top of getting ready for my students. Yeah. So that's how I teach in Barton in Playground. I use Playground as much as possible. And if the people who are concerned that it's too distracting, I'm telling you, this focus tool, I have kids with ADHD. And again, I always use that story of a girl who needed a break every 10 minutes and she did not need a break, not once. And she never has. So I've even had parents say, "Oh, my kid will never be able to concentrate in that." It's like as soon as you bring the animation or this video gaming idea, and they all think Minecraft, it's like it's an attention, it's an immediate. They're interested, and you can. There's options for your student. You can let them build. You can let them, you can. If they earn points, they get to build a structure. There's so many ways to for those kids who need incentivizations for completing things. Like I do the point system. You earn a certain number of points with sight words, then we get to go play a game, and I'll play a game here, or I will often use, like, if I have 5 minutes left with a student, I always try and end with something fun. So like, oh, we're in the middle of phrases. I'm still going to stop. I'll mark where we are, and I said we're going to word wall. So I'll head up to my co-browser, and we will immediately go to word wall. If you have a word wall subscription,
Jane,
I've got all
if I
my
may,
activities.
if I may jump in, so the co-browser, for those of you who don't know what it is a browser where you and your student can click and drag and drop things at the same time. So it's pretty ideal to consume any web content. Could be WordWall, could be Wizimo. You just open the co-browser, go to that page, and then you and your student can drag and drop, complete exercises, and even annotate.
Yeah, I like for my Silent E series, I do a lot of videos for adults and stuff, but I've got like my whole Silent E. Oh, look, there's Ben. I've got my whole Silent E series in here. So because I sell my Silent E series in the marketplace, and I actually have the letter E in the playground, and he talks. There's a hero E that says, "Look out, I'm here to save the day." And there's the videos from my YouTube channel that go with it. And in the template that I sell, I give you the link to go watch the video. It only reinforces. So it's not Susan's, because I say there's 8 jobs of the Silent E. And so it does kind of follow the scope and sequence of Barton, but it doesn't. I'm following the scope and sequence of my videos, and I include things that she doesn't. So, but it very nicely coincides with Barton. I will say that, but it's not copyrighted. So I don't do any copyright infringement. My sister is a patent and copyright paralegal, so I'm aware of all that stuff. And again, you can keep things clean by tabbing students here. For those, I also do have a marketplace. If you don't want to create all those stickies for your whiteboard, I do sell Barton OG based tile stickies, 2 pages worth that I just created. They're just in the whiteboard. I don't have anything for that for playground at this point. Any other questions?
I'll just read the comment from Lori because it makes me very happy. She says, I'm working in 30-minute lessons with an autistic student who also has development delays and physical limitations. He used to need 2 breaks in an hour. With Koala, we don't take any breaks in 45 minutes. It works.
Yep. Yeah, it's
Lori.
psychosomatic. They think they're moving because they're in that playground. It's high engagement. This is a generation of kids who are used to screens. And as much as we say, oh, it's one more screen, but we're learning. So it's interactive. So it's not like they're just sitting there passively watching a screen. They are engaged and they're involved in it. And even if you don't want to use those stickies, if you just do that screenshot, you're still taking us out of Wizimo. You're still not on that co-browser. You're putting it in a playground environment. And even if you're still just using those PDFs, you're over here reading phrases, and then you're moving upstairs and you're reading sentences. And that gives that sense of movement that those kids needed to move. Well, it's almost psychosomatic. They're moving, but they're moving digitally. So I've been amazingly surprised. When I first went online, I was like, there's no way this is going to work. These kids, I had a couple kids that were local, and even after they could come back to me, they stayed because their parents were like, well, I can save driving to you. And I'm like, sure, let's just stay online. And their kid is engaged. I was surprised. I was really skeptical at first. But
Jane, on an average class today, how much time do you spend in playground versus whiteboard versus co-browser?
It's hard to say a percentage because it depends on how long it takes. I've never finished. I don't know anybody that does an entire Barton lesson in one session. So my sessions are 50 minutes. Yep. The most time I ever spend is when we start a lesson in Wizimo, because I do the new teaching there, new teaching 1 and 2. And then pretty much after the new teaching 1 and 2, I'm not in Wizimo. I'm in the playground or the whiteboard for the rest of the steps.
90% playground?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The only time I'm in Wizimo is for the new teaching.
Okay. Cool. Jane, I know we have about 5 minutes to wrap up. Where can people find your content? What
So
do you
if you go
recommend?
to,
I know you mentioned content earlier. Yeah.
yeah, so you can find my content on the marketplace if you go to teachwithkoala.com. My content, if you just look up, I think if you look up I think I'm listed under as Miss Jane's Tutoring. I've got quite a few playgrounds in there. Some of you need to pay attention. Some of them are whiteboard only because when playground was primitive, when it was just those squirrel and I did some just whiteboard stuff, but I've got Barton content for or set up for the Greek and Latin, and I've got again, you have to have the curriculum. I don't have the PDFs in there. I've got a whole series on the silent E, which does not follow her exact, but you can pretty easily figure out that the first silent E one goes with the first couple lessons of Barton. I do say there's 8 reasons for the silent E. And you can if you want to see what what I think those are, you can even just go to my YouTube and you'll see you can see all those videos. But I do
Jane, do you
put the
mind,
specific videos.
since you're sharing your screen, do you mind going to like show everybody how to go to the marketplace and how to find your content? And there's especially a question from Katie saying, how could we find your letter tiles / stickies for purchase? Is this what you use having students spell like a drag and drop other than typing a blank whiteboard?
Yeah, so this is the webpage right here that has those stickies, but it's only whiteboard. They're only here. So this is, so I can highlight this text box, copy. I will go up here. I'm not quite sure how to, that's my.
No, you probably, oh yeah, okay. Yep.
So this is what it looks like in market. It says OG Barton based sticky tiles for 2 pages. There's 2 pages of them. So if you go to teachwithkoala.com, and then there's a Go marketplace. So I can just go.
Thank you.
Teach with Koala. So here we are on Teach with Koala, right here, marketplace. And you can
type Mrs. Jane.
do literacy. You can narrow it down. Let's see what happens if we do Miss Jane. Let's see what happens. So Miss Jane, and then I just do show all results.
Yeah.
And here's a bunch of stuff I've created. I've got just one that's word frames. Again, make sure you check, because if you just want something that's just the whiteboard or just playground, you want to specify here, because some of my stuff is only whiteboard. Like this one, I guess I did do this is like a whiteboard one. This is playground. This is just decorations if you want decorations. This is that hazard-free. So I took Koala's one of their rooms, and then I just added stuff so you can't fall into the water. Because when I was first in there, I kept falling in the water, and you have those students that keep falling in the water, and you're like, this is annoying. So this
Jane
is just
baby-proofed, took the default and baby-proofed the playground.
Yeah.
There's a question from Nina, not related to Barton training, but does Koala have tutorial information on companions? What they do? I tried to look, but I can't find much information on them. My students would love to know before they spend all their gems on one. Haha. Okay, I'll take this one real quick. This is a great question. You saw when Jane was in playground, she had a little pet dragon walking around. That's the companion. Today, there's only one type of companion. You can use your gems to buy an egg. I don't remember how much it costs, 200, 300 gems, something like this. You buy an egg, exactly. You click on companion and then, okay, 260, you get an egg. And then you can place it. And then after 7 days, yeah, don't buy it, but yeah, after 7 days, the egg will hatch and a little dragon will come out of it. And then that dragon will follow you. It's purely for fun. There is no, I don't think there's a real educational value. It's more of a companion, to keep your company and to get your students excited.
I don't know if anybody else experiences this. There's a part of me that's like, oh, you can only have one dragon at a time. So if I want a new dragon, Glacier will go away. And it's really ridiculous. But I'm like, it's a cartoon. But I cannot bring myself to delete it to get a different egg. Because it's like, he's been around for so long. And it's so stupid because he comes up and looks at you and lovingly. And I'm like, it's ridiculous. I can't bring myself to delete him to get another egg. I'm like, I've had Glacier. And my students are like, you can't get rid of Glacier. I'm like, okay, I won't. So I thought, oh, I want to try a different egg. But they're like, no, Like, you're right. He's too cute.
Cool. I think that's it for all the questions.
Awesome.
Thank you so much,
thank-
Jane, for taking the
yeah,
time
thank
to
you.
walk us through all this.
Yeah. I wrote PDFs for everything I just talked about. I know I'm such a visual person, and this is kind of what it looks like, but like, this is how to create a template, create a base template for a level, put all the rules in there, by alarms, set up the playground. And then I also have how I go through every lesson. Start every lesson with this on the whiteboard, playground for sight word hunt. So I created 2 PDFs. I don't know if that's something I can give you, Xavier, if people are interested in having these steps written out for them. It's basically what I went over, how I do a template and how I run my lesson with the options. If people would like a copy of that, I can give it to Xavier and he can distribute it to people who are here at this.
Yep.
And then if people are interested, I can create a template that I'll sell. What I just showed you, exactly what I just showed you, but it would not have any Barton content in it, but it will have all the blank stickies for you. So you wouldn't have to do that. And I would say, put the rules here. This is where you spell phrases, but I won't have any actual content. You'd have to put that in yourself. But if you want that base template where I say, here's where you build words, here's where you do phrases, what you just saw, if you want exactly that copy without the content, I can sell that for a couple bucks on Marketplace if you'd like it.
Perfect. Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of interest, Jane. So maybe what you can do is email me all the information that I should forward, and then I'll put this in an email I'll send to everyone.
Yeah, just give me a couple of days to do the template, because I got to delete all the content out of that first one, and then it's got to get approved. But I can get this PDF. I already have the PDFs ready for you that you can distribute.
All right. And for those of you who don't use Koala, I've just put in the chat a link that allows you to get a free month of Koala Pro to play around with all this. Thank you, Jane. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone.
Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.